All praises to the Most High and His Son Christ. We're here at I.U.I.C. Orlando. I'm Captain Tazawan.
Officer Maciel.
And basically, Brother Lewis, as you stated, we're going to get into it real quick. We're going to go over true history, biblical history. But what we want to do in Black History Month, we must make reference to a black man, Jesus the Christ, the Messiah. Let's see some words and shed some light on the gist of what you were saying, Lewis. Okay, because we have to learn the truth. Go ahead and read that.
We're in the book of John, chapter 8, verse 32.
These are words of a black man. Okay, Jesus Christ. Read that. Come on, what do you say?
And ye shall know the truth.
He said what?
And ye shall know the truth.
So, Lewis, as you stated, we have to look beyond the fact of just here in America or in the Caribbean or who we've been taught that we are. For instance, a lot of you all, you think you're Bahamian. Some of you all think that you're Jamaican. Some of you all think you are Caribbean. All right, but no. Here in 2019, in Black History Month, we're going to talk about some true Caribbean history. What was the time period, or what was your name before that time when you were brought to the islands from those west coasts of Africa? Read that again, bro.
John 8:32. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
Right, so you're going to know the truth, and we're going to teach it to you through this word, through the Bible, through God's words and His Son, and it's going to make you free. Free from mental slavery, from that captive state of mind. Because even right now in the Caribbean islands and in the Americas, you got a lot of blacks, got a lot of Hispanics and Native Indians, got a lot of black Caribbeans, Jamaican Caribbeans, so-called Negro Americans. They're killing themselves day and night. So you have to know who you are and how valuable you are in the eyesight of the Most High God to value another man's life. And we're going to show you. First off, you so-called Caribbean, West Indians in the Caribbeans, where you got Tobago, you got Guyana, Trinidad, Belize, you got Honduras, you got all these different locations. Jamaica, Grenada, you have the Cayman Islands, you have what Nassau, Bahamas. Shout out to I.U.I.C. Bahamas. We have a school established there as well. Listen, when you look at these names, you have to look down and ask yourself, when did we get these names? You are the tribe of Benjamin. Thus saith the Lord. So I'm going to introduce to you who Benjamin is according to the Bible. Let's get Genesis chapter 35, verse 24 real quick. Verse 24.
The book of Genesis, chapter 35.
We're taking you upon a time way before you got to the Caribbean islands. It's going to be a 4-part series. It's the first part, introduction to it. We're going to show you exactly who you are, you so-called West Indians, the tribe of Benjamin. Let's go real quick. Read that.
Genesis 35, verse 24.
Read.
The sons of Rachel.
The sons of Rachel. Rachel was Jacob's wife, okay? She bore 2 sons unto Jacob, okay? What were their names? Read that.
Joseph and Benjamin.
Benjamin was Jacob's favorite, okay? After Joseph got lost and sold off by his brothers, when you go into your history of you being Israel, you so-called West Indians, Bahamians, you so-called Jamaicans, okay? You go into the history of your forefathers and foremothers, you read about how Joseph was sold off by his brothers. And basically, the Benjamin, his son, Jacob's son's Benjamin, he was... He comforted our father Jacob by his birth, okay, because he lost Joseph. Anyway, jump to verse 18 real quick, please.
Verse number 18, Genesis 35 and verse 18.
Right.
And it came to pass, as her soul was in departing,
right.
For
this
she
is talking about Rachel, as her soul was in departing, giving birth to Benjamin. Read on.
For she died, that she called his name Benoni. But his father called him Benjamin. So
at her death, she died. She gave forth Benjamin. Okay. She called him Benoni, but her father called him. But his father called him Benjamin. Benjamin means son of the right. Son of the right. Okay. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna get into it, because when you speak about who you are, you have to go back to who created man, God. And what did God call us as a people? So that's why we're diving into the Bible. We're giving we're giving a brighter light onto who we are as a people. Okay, so let's get into it real quick. We read earlier, we said, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, right? So this is going to make you free from that captive state of mind of you thinking that you're a Caribbean. Go to Genesis real quick, chapter 49, verse 1.
Genesis 49.
So Lewis, what we're gonna do is show you is basically, okay, we're saying that you're Benjamin. How is that so? We have to attach what we're saying to the Bible and exactly to what you are today. Okay, so we're bridging that gap.
Yeah, let's prove the Benjamites in the Caribbean. How does that? How do you come to that conclusion?
Absolutely. Here we go. We're gonna get it. Yes, sir.
Genesis 49. Verse number 1.
Go to actually verse 37. Let's get straight to the point.
Genesis 49, verse number 30, verse number 27.
27, yes.
Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil.
Now, Jacob is basically introducing what would befall Benjamin's descendants after him, meaning his children, okay? Exactly. Yes, what you will become in the future. Now, we know Benjamin didn't live forever, so he had to been talking about, Jacob was talking about Benjamin's descendants or his posterity, okay? Now, let's get a little, I'm going to paint the picture. Let's get that in verse 1 real quick, so we paint the picture. There was an arena of Jacob, the father, speaking to his sons. Read that real quick, come on.
Genesis 49, verse 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together.
All 12 of his sons. You had Judah, Benjamin, Levi. You had Benjamin was sitting there. Read on, come on.
That I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
I'm going to tell you what's going to befall you, what's going to happen to your descendants in these here last days. Now, let's jump to it real quick. Hosea. I'm going to show you because what we read about in verse 27, it spoke about, it said, Benjamin, you so-called West Indians, shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. That's so, it's those so few words. It was a parable. Read. Come on.
I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes.
God used similitudes. So what we read about Benjamin in the book of Genesis chapter 49 verse 27, it's a similitude, okay, of what would happen to his children. Read that again. Keep going. Keep going.
By the ministry of the prophets.
By the ministry of the prophets. So God is going to send you a face that looks like you so that you can believe. Now go back to that real quick in Genesis chapter 27. I mean Genesis 49, 27. Read that first line. It says, Benjamin, thou shalt raven as a wolf.
Genesis 49, verse 27. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf.
Right.
In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil.
Says Benjamin shall raven as the wolf. So the ensign of the tribe of Benjamin is a wolf that ravens, a wolf that howls, a howl. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna shed some light real quick on the Caribbean music. Look what's going on in the Caribbean music. We talked about earlier the oppression. Give me Deuteronomy 28 real quick. The oppression.
All right, the book of Deuteronomy 28. What verse number?
Oh, okay.
Deuteronomy 28.
Verse 48 real quick.
Verse number 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee.
In the Caribbean islands, the British, Queen Elizabeth.
In hunger.
They send them where? In hunger? Read on.
And in thirst.
The British, the Queen Elizabeth. You had John II, the British, the England. They brought those Caribbeans from the west ports of Africa onto where? Onto the Caribbean islands, okay? These are the so-called white nation people. Read on. Come on.
And in thirst, and in nakedness.
And in thirst and nakedness.
And in want of all things.
So they brought them to the islands and they had to serve their enemies, okay, the white man, for thirst, for nakedness, and for the want of all things.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
And he put yokes of iron upon their neck until he had destroyed thee. Now, we can just safely say that who is speaking of in these islands is speaking of those Caribbeans that was there, those so-called Caribbeans that were there, that happened to be the tribe of Benjamin. Now, go back to that Genesis real quick.
Genesis 49, verse number 27.
49, 27. Okay, read.
Benjamin shall raven as a wolf.
Okay, now we're going to deal with it. It says, Benjamin shall raven. When you hear it right now, the raven is a howl. Is a howl. And you may think it's beautiful to the sight. It's very nice. It's a nice sight to see or hear, right? But it was speaking into, it's going into the music. The music. Benjamin, unlike all the other tribes, will be known for speaking out about oppression. That oppression that we spoke about was right there in Deuteronomy 28, verse 48. Because of the chains on the neck. Because of, here goes some of that music as well. It's because of the chains on the neck. because you have to serve the white man, the British, for food, clothing, and water, okay? With your children being in that oppression. And now we're going to speak freely because that's what happened to us. Nobody can deny that. How did you get to the islands? First off, the first strike is you came on slave ships. And then when you were brought here, you were forced to work free labor. And then after that, you had to serve your enemy so that they can maintain your children in your state of cause for food, clothing, and water. And then you had chains on your necks. That automatically links you to the Bible. Who? The Israelites. This will happen specifically to the tribe of Benjamin. Now, we read back earlier, it said, Benjamin shall raven as the wolf. Now, here we go. Here goes some ravening right now.
The brother singing about oppression.
He's singing about oppression.
And the idea here is to play some of these songs. There is these raving song where these Jamaicans or these Caribbean men are singing raving.
Yes.
Like a wolf. We're gonna play some of these songs from the Bob Marley, the Dennis Brown, the Burning Spear. All of these guys who've been raving for years with the message.
So what they're hearing is Bible prophecy.
Yes.
Listen,
Correct.
what they're hearing right now is Bible prophecy of raven as a wolf.
Lewis, you right on it, man. I'm telling you. Hey, listen, that's where I was going with it. Listen, and the gist of it all, listen what happens. When you listen to the ravening, because of the wolf is howling, it's beautiful to the sight. But what are they talking about? Revolution. So-called black man. So-called Bahamian man, so-called Caribbean, so-called Jamaican, that you must instill in your brains. If you listen to the communication of revolting against society, not in a sense of in a sense of violence, but thinking in your heart that no, I'm not a white man, I'm not American, I'm not this, that, and the third, that is something much more special about me. You have a lot of artists like Capleton. You got a lot of artists like let's see, I got a list of them right here. Here we go. You got Anthony B. You got Dennis Brown, as we mentioned. You got Burning Spear. They always spoke about oppression.
And this is a famous one by Dennis Brown, Revolution.
Do you know what it means to have a revolution?
Let me show you something real quick. Give me Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7. I'm going to show you off what Dennis Brown, and all of what we're making mention to and referencing right now is the wolf that's howling. For what? So that he can rise up to the prey in the morning and divide the spoil at night. So we can stand up for revolution. Ooh, here we go right now. You so-called Caribbeans, y'all need to look up the history of the Maroon Warriors. The Maroon Warriors, what did they do? They revolted. They revolted against the British and the whites that was there colonizing the land and bringing them there. But let's see, why were they doing that? Read that real quick. Why do we have the wolf ravening right now? Read that real quick.
Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 7. Surely
what?
Oppression.
Wait, read that again. Say what?
Surely.
Without a doubt. 100% correct. Read.
Oppression.
What?
Oppression.
Listen, you got a man by the name, what's his name? Listen, Peter Tosh. It's a song called Oppressor Man. He make that song. If you can find that, put it on the airwaves. Listen, it says, surely oppression do what?
Maketh a wise man.
Listen, they were not pulling dummies on over to the islands. We were men of stature. We were men of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding when we came from those coasts of Africa on the slave ships. We weren't simple people. Okay? It says, the scripture says, surely oppression do what?
Maketh a wise man mad.
Make a wise man mad and go crazy. You hear about, here you go right here. Oppression. Peter Tosh right here. He said he's ravening as a wolf. Listen, oppressor man, you're gonna get your reckoning. That's what he's saying in the gist. Listen, unlike all the other tribes, the tribe of Benjamin will be fully aware that all of this systematic oppressions that's going on, whether it's psychological, biological, whether it's spiritual, it was all set up by the devil, the evil man that's trying to get you and stick you and stay you in that oppressive state of mind. And that's what we're trying to show on to you that, listen, me myself, when I came into this truth, I started listening to a lot of Benjamite music. That's what I call it, Benjamite music. Because I didn't know that they were up on it like that. They were up on the oppression like that.
Oh yes, all of these Caribbean artists, these artists from the Bob Marleys to the Wailers, these guys are all men of God. And these brothers, they sing from their heart, and they sing some songs that we didn't even... Let me tell you something, my brother. If we as a people don't just get up and dance and listen to some of these music that some of these Jamaican brothers sing, man, it tells you every single thing you want to know about life. All of these music that they sing. And so I always talk here, and I said most of these music you can go to church in the morning and have these music as your celebration songs, because they are from a true spirit and they speak about the things of life. And that's why we just got the recognition from the United Nations as a treasure, that reggae music is now protected as a national treasure all over the world. Big up to all the Rastamans that sing some of these songs.
Okay. So this is what we're gonna, because you mentioned the Rasta, correct? But there was a way of life that those Caribbeans were living way before they even got to those Caribbean islands.
Of course.
Okay. As for instance, we follow Christ, correct? Jesus Christ, he wasn't a Rasta. All right. He was an Israelite. He was a Jew. You understand? So that's the roots that we're gonna get back to before we even learn Haile Selassie and things of that nature. That's what we're here to shed light upon and give that to the people as well. Okay. So even before we learned that you all learned Christianity, before that, guess what happened? You knew that you were the Israelites in Africa. Let's get that real quick. I want to get this proof real quick because I spoke earlier about the Maroon Warriors, and I kind of want to make some recognition to those Caribbean men and women that did a lot for those brothers and sisters on the islands, okay, as well as those American blacks in the Bible as well. But
here is one of them that Bonnie Whaler will be singing about, is Marcus Garvey.
Marcus Garvey's come to pass. Marcus Garvey's come to pass. Can't get no food to eat. Can't get no money to spend.
Here we go. I got a book right here, some more history real quick. It's called Babylon and Timbuktu.
The Book of Babylon and Timbuktu, page 133.
Here we go. Talking about Israel. Here we go. Come on.
Before Dr. God Bay published his book, The Lost 10 Tribes, A Myth, Rabbi Matthew organized a Hebrew congregation.
So this was a Hebrew congregation way back in the 1960s that was established already by Rabbi Matthew, right? He understood that the so-called Caribbeans, the so-called Jamaicans and American blacks, they were the Jews. So he was teaching as such in his church. Okay, go on.
A Hebrew congregation in 1918 and proclaimed that
that's 100 years ago.
Yeah,
that's 100 years ago. That's 100 years of the 400. Listen, that's 100 years of the 400 years we was meant to serve in slavery. I'm gonna stop on that point right there, though, because I'm gonna show you a clue that you are the people of the book. Give me Genesis chapter 15, verse 13, because that's what we're doing. When you speak about the truth and we speak about bringing out the Bible precept upon precept, I'm gonna simplify it for you. It's clues. You have to read in the Bible and look at the clues that God is trying to show are the people of his word, of the book. Read that real quick.
Genesis 15 and verse 13.
Slavery began in 1619. Listen where we at right now, revealing who we are as a people. Read that real quick.
And
2019.
And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall...
Whose seed? Abraham's lineage, his descendants. Read on.
Thy seed shall be a stranger.
Shall be a stranger. They didn't know the Caribbeans when they got there. I didn't know that. My forefathers didn't know the islands when we got here. None of them. We came from the eastern hemisphere to the western hemisphere. Read on.
A stranger in a land that is not theirs.
A stranger in a land that at first is not theirs. Because you had a ratio of 7,000 to 1,000 black Jews to the white Caucasians, the oppressors, on the islands of Hispaniola, etc., right? The ratio was vast, all right? They was bought on slave ships with no power, no might. Read on, come on.
And shall serve them, and they
Okay, so your seed, Abraham, shall serve these British whites on the islands. Read on, come on.
And they shall afflict them for 400 years.
400 years. It's now just now in what they call this the 20th century that we're just starting to get out of that oppression physically and getting what we have today. We have in Jamaica. What was the Independence Day in 1962, I believe? Yes, 1962 was the independence of Jamaica. In August the 6th, that's when it happened. Okay, so now check this out. The Caribbeans, the so-called Jamaicans, are just now coming into the fruition of having their independence. Why? Because of the work of the Maroons, who the Bible calls the wolves.
That ravaged the prey. You understand what I'm saying?
They were the wolves. They were the warriors.
Yes, they were the warriors.
They were the ones that set up everything for us in the islands.
So, as we're trying to establish and elaborate, who?
Queen Nanny.
Queen Nanny.
Queen Nanny.
Absolutely.
The ones with the revolution too.
Yeah.
Bad sister.
So you women, you are part of this thing. It ain't
That's
just
right.
the men. We are the Israelites, men and women.
110%. Let's read this little section real quick. Let's keep continuing real quick.
Rabbi Matthew organized a Hebrew congregation in 1918 and proclaimed that the black people of the United States and the West Indies.
Hold on, where at?
And the West Indies.
That's everybody up from the tip of Florida Keys on down to Hispaniola. Everybody that's down there with the Caribbean islands. Read on, come on.
Are the original black Hebrews.
Hold on, the what?
Original.
The original, meaning the first, the only. You cannot
First and
mimic.
only people, correct.
Mimic what?
Black Hebrews.
Meaning the Jews. They are the Jews. They are the originals. Why? Because they knew who they were brought in on. When you read the Bible, it shows you clues exactly who you are, so-called Jamaican man, so-called Caribbean, Bahamian man and woman and child. You are the Israelites according to the Bible. Let's get back on topic real quick. We spoke about that 400 years of oppression that we still going through, but now we're shedding light into who we are as a people today. All right, I'm gonna get back. Let's go back because that's the main key of the scriptures real quick. Genesis chapter 49. Verse 27. Back to Benjamin.
Genesis 49:27.
Uh-huh.
Benjamin shall raven as a wolf.
Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. What?
Raven as a wolf.
Uh-huh.
In the morning.
In the morning means when we start to shed that light on who we are. When Christ returns, what's going to happen? Read on.
He shall devour the prey.
He's going to devour the prey. Now you have some remnants of that happen. We talked about the maroon warriors, correct? I'm going to shed some light into that real quick. Okay. So when you read into what ravening means, I'm gonna show you this. We got a book right here. This was a book written by the Prime Minister. It's called From Columbus to Castro. Okay, it says The History of the Caribbean. All right, so that's what we're talking about. It's right on point. His name was Eric Williams. All right, he was the the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. If I'm not mistaken. Here we go. Let's get a section of this book that he read about the maroon warriors, or the non-domesticated dog, which is a wolf. All right, you cannot tame the wolf. Let's get that real quick. What I talked about earlier. Read this part right here.
From Columbus to Castro, page 67. The local authorities, unable to subdue the Maroons, offered in 1540.
The local authorities was those oppressors that must be judged for the oppression that they put those Caribbean slaves in, so-called Caribbean slaves in. Okay, read on. Come on.
Unable to subdue the Maroons.
Why were they unable to subdue them? Because as I stated earlier, the spirit of the Lord was taken from us when we went into captivity. We didn't have the fierceness. You literally had one white man to 100 black slaves, and all the black slaves, they were weak. Why? Physically and mentally. You understand? When it first began and started. Why was it like that? Because the Spirit of the Lord was taken from us. So read on. Come on.
Offered in subdue the Maroons. Offered in 1545 to allow them to live in peace, and even to send them.
So right here it says they were unable to subdue the Maroons. As time progressed and went on, we came to sense that, listen, we could come out of this state of mind that we're in, and that's when you got the Maroon Warriors. Go back to that real quick. Yeah, it says unable to subdue them. Go ahead.
Offered in 1545 to allow them to live in peace, and even to send them clergymen to instruct them in the Christian religion.
Listen here. So now, this is when Christianity started to come to the Caribbean in textbook, okay? because you all were revolting against those slave masters, and now they started to send in clergymen.
Yes. These men are called, I can add something to this. These men are called overseers. These were the men, if you look now, and for those Christians from Jamaica out there that are listening, this is where the word overseers come from. They still have the term overseers for different churches all over the Caribbean.
Wow.
The head of the church is the overseer for these branch, and this is what these British men were called. They were the overseers for the church. And the way they set it up is that when church time come on a Sunday morning, the white man from England would be the man on the pulpit that sits on the pulpit while the preacher preaches, and he was the one who will make sure that the preacher is not saying anything out of the ordinary. And that's where the term overseers come from. The British put people all over in the Caribbean islands, wherever they had their plantation, to make sure that there was a white man sitting in the pulpit, on the pulpit, every Sunday. And this man was the overseer who was in charge of, for example, St. James. He was the guy, or maybe he have maybe 10 more of himself that they were controlling all the different church in the island. And so that's why the Bible or the religion was controlled by the British. And these men were called the overseer. As far as I'm concerned, that term, if the black church, if the churches from the Caribbean really know their history, they should not be using that term anymore in the entire Caribbean nation. They need to ban that name, overseer, because it comes from an oppressive system of making sure that whatever the British want the black people to say on a Sunday morning, you could not say anything else out of the ordinary.
Absolutely. 100% correct. And then before that name was given in the Caribbean, that word overseer was in the time of Genesis, when the Egyptians sent out overseers or taskmasters to make sure that the children of Israel maintained the oppressed state of mind to build whatever Egypt wanted them to do. So as I stated earlier, the scripture says precept upon precept, line upon line. These are the clues to show you exactly that you are the Israelites, the Benjamites in the Caribbean islands. And we're showing you through the influence of the music, these men that stayed up and fought against oppression by the words they're singing. And they I like this song.
Right here, I'm sorry, bro.
Yes. As we continue, we're going to come back. It is 12 o'clock. We're going to take care of some business, and we'll be right back with more as we continue right here.
All right. Okay. So we're just going to get right back into it. More enlightenment on who you are as a people, you so-called Caribbeans, Jamaicans. All those that are in the Americas as well, and in the Caribbean islands. You are the Benjamites, okay? You are the Benjamites that stem from our forefather Jacob, okay? So real quick, we spoke about earlier about the oppression that they went through as a people when they came to those islands. I'm going to read right here in the book of Micah, chapter 2, verse 2 in the Holy Bible in King James Version. Micah 2:2, it says, "And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away, so they oppress a man." That man that was oppressed was the Caribbean man coming from the west ports of Africa to the Caribbeans, all right? The they speaking of in this verse is speaking of the oppressor man, okay? The oppressor man forced these slaves to work free labor. It says oppressor man and his house, even a man and his heritage. So the heritage of the Israelite man, woman, and child was taken away from him, and he was forced to learn Christianity. We read right here. Read this part again.
Before you go back there, can we go back to how did the Israelites got from Damascus, those places from Israel, to the north coast of Africa. Let's talk about that for a minute. How did they get from? Because a lot of people don't see the connection. A lot of people don't see the connection. How did we get from Jerusalem, from all of those places in the Bible that we read, from Judea, all of those places that we read in the Bible? How did the black man, as we are saying, we are from the Caribbean island, how did we get there from that region into North Africa, into Ghana, into Sierra Leone, all of these places that we came from, slavery-wise, that we were given the rights to come to this region of the world? How did we get there? Can we break that down?
Yes, I'm gonna make it real clear to you. It goes back to what Christ said. From the time when we was in Jerusalem, I'm gonna read to you what he said in the book of Luke, chapter 19, verse 21. Let's see what he said. Come on.
Luke 19, verse 21. For I fear thee, because thou art an austere man.
No, 21, 19.
When Christ was an austere man. Luke 21 and verse number 19.
Here we go. Sorry about that. Here we go.
And your patience possess ye your souls.
Christ said, build yourselves up, and your patience possess your soul. Keep reading, come on.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem.
Because a lot of turmoil is going to happen to the people that were in Jerusalem. And that's what happened. When we were in Jerusalem, the whites, the Roman armies,
Massacre was getting ready to happen.
Exactly. A massacre, what they call it, genocide was about to happen up inside Jerusalem. When the original Jews were there, the black Jews. Read on, come on.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know the desolation thereof is nigh.
The armies of who? Titus of Vespasian. When you read in the book we have right here, from Babylon to Timbuktu, it talked about how the Edomite or the Caucasian, the Roman armies would come in to Jerusalem and besiege our gates. Read on, come on.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
All you Jews that's in Judea, run to the mountains. Get out of there, because they're going to kill you. They're not taking any prisoners. They're going to kill you. Christ said, run. Read on.
And let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
And those that are in the midst of the mountains or in the midst of Jerusalem, depart out. And read on. What else?
And let not them that are in the countries enter.
And this place of Jerusalem, don't come back to. Why? Because now, because of the Roman armies in 65 BC until 70 AD, guess what happened? Not from them times at that time, but I'm saying in that time period, 5 years in between they would go, the Roman armies would come and destroy Jerusalem. Okay, that's why you hear about 70 AD, the fall of Jerusalem. And then from there, all those blacks that was in the original Jews that was in Jerusalem, they fled into the...
That's where they fled, into the mountains of Africa.
Egypt.
Egypt.
They fled into the mountains of Egypt.
All of that region is Africa. Everybody need to understand.
Yes,
all of that
100%.
region that was separated to call now the Middle East.
Yes.
As it was Africa.
You know what separated that? They have something called, it's called the Suez Canal. It was forced. It was a riverside that was. It was basically a forced strait, a man-made strait that connected one sea to another sea, and basically they cut it off from Africa and called it the Middle East.
All that region, if you go back into the Bible in those days, all of that region, entire continent, it was Africa.
Yes.
And so that's where we were just hanging out.
So,
correct.
As you asked earlier, and as we're gonna make the statement. Where do you bridge the gap? What happened in between that? Where's that lost sense of history? Well, this is it right here. Christ said, flee to Africa. Where did Christ, when he was a child, where did his parents go to?
He went to Egypt.
He went to why? To blend in with all the other black nations.
God, the angel spoke and said, take your child into Egypt, because if you do not, then you know the
Herod sought to kill him. Exactly. Sought to take his life.
Africa. He went into Egypt.
He went into Egypt.
Those times they were all black folks or dark people of dark color in Egypt.
So he could blend in with the people there.
Absolutely.
So now we're gonna bridge
How
further.
did we miss? How do we all these years miss these things? And why is it that we don't see preachers, our preachers, speak and teach these things out of the Bible to their people? Why is it that we do not hear these things on mainstream churches when we go to church on a Sunday morning or a Saturday morning, whichever? Why is that so? Why is this image, this entire part of the book of the Bible, is totally not being read in church, or read but not being taught properly?
Here we go. Let's get that. Jeremiah 23. It was prophesied of. It was prophesied of. Jeremiah 23 real quick. It was prophesied that the word would be in the mouths of the preachers, and they'd be presented the word of God, and they would not be able to give forth the understanding of the word until the Lord God of Israel would send pastors according to his heart. We're going to get that out of the Bible. All right. You have many of prophets or many of people that preach this Bible and say, I have dreams, I have visions, but they are not established with God's word. So off of the question that you asked, why did that happen? God prophesied it would happen. Okay? Read that real quick. Is that what I want?
Which one?
This is all part of God's...
23 and 2? Or?
23, 25.
Thank you, bro.
In the book of Jeremiah, 23 and verse 25.
Read this, I pray thee.
I have heard what the prophet said, that prophecy lies in my name, saying,
the Lord have heard the prophet that have prophesied lies, saying, what did he say? Read.
I have dreamed. I have dreamed. I have dreamed.
You have many of prophets that say they're of the Lord that says, I have dreamed a vision. I have dreamed. I have dreamed. Read on. Come on.
Which think to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams.
And this is how we forgot who we were in our heritage, because off the dream of a false prophet, we've lost sight of God's true message and his word. Okay?
How long shall this be in the hearts of the prophets that prophesy lies?
Mm-hmm.
Yea, they
the
are
lie
prophets.
that was prophesied was assimilation. The assimilation lie that all races could be together in harmony, that we could come together against God's laws and marry within the other nations. That's against God. So with us assimilating with the nations, we adapted their laws, we adapted their holidays, we adapted to keep their culture and their ways. Okay, that's how we lost sight of who we were. We lost. You so-called Caribbeans started calling yourselves that because that's what the white man called you when he dropped you off on those islands, and you started to take on the heritage of the Jamaican bacchanal that you keep, or carnival. That's not taught to you by God. You know, right there in the islands and in Americas too, certain places in Florida too, y'all keep a carnival called you keep a celebration called carnival, where you revel, drink wine, and you party. All that is against God because it's not written in the book. You learn different customs, and you learn assimilation customs from the enemy. Real quick, let's get this real quick. Jeremiah 3 verse 15.
Jeremiah 3, verse number 15.
So we lost that link because the word of God would not be preached unto us correctly in truth. So the Lord said, in these last days, I'm going to send you pastors according to my heart. Read that. We'll see what it says.
I will give you pastors according to mine heart.
God said, I'm going to give you true pastors that's going to worship the Lord in spirit and that's going to worship God in spirit and in truth. I'm going to give you what? Read on.
Pastors according to mine heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding.
They're going to feed you with the right knowledge and the right understanding, truth. They're going to feed you with, and that's the time that we live in right now. So we're not false prophets because we're coming out of the word in spirit and in truth. We're feeding our people with knowledge and understanding. We're not prophesying unto you lies of our own means. Real quick, I still want to bridge that gap in between what happened from when we were in Jerusalem until the time when we got to the west coast of Africa. So we're going to read about the Ghanaian kingdom, okay? When we fled and migrated into Ghana, Africa, Libya. When we got into Nigeria, Ethiopia, etc. Right? So when we came from Jerusalem, we fled into northeast Africa, right? But we fled all the way down to the west ports of Africa. Let's get that in this book. Once again, it's called Babylon and Timbuktu.
Babylon.
This book was written by Rudolph R. Winsler, okay? Read on. Come on.
We're on page 90. the black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes.
So there's a difference between the African tribes who are Hamitic, that come from Ham, right? One of the sons of Noah, and Shemitic. We come from Shem, okay? We were different. Even though we look the same, we're different people. Read on, come on.
They carried their culture, history.
So we had an advantage because we had, for one, we had culture, which is the Bible. We had laws and statutes. Read on, come on.
History, laws, and written records with them.
Laws of God, the Bible, and written records of who we are. We had that identity coming out of Jerusalem. Now, why do we come out of Jerusalem? Yes, absolutely. We're different from them. Okay. Yes, that's why, exactly like you said, Lewis, we do stand out from them. We're all different. Even when you go, we just made a trip, the leadership just made a trip to, well, we keep going there, to Ghana, Africa. We have a school there. They were able to tell the difference between the Hamites and the Israelites. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. By sheer difference. And then when you go to Africa, they would literally look at you and tell you what tribe you could be from because of the facial features. So they automatically had a difference. Even though we were dark and had kinky hair, we were not dusty and the same like the Hamites. I'm telling you straight.
The true Israelites
yes.
are people who stand out.
Yes.
And so in those regions, and so that's why we were the one who were round up to go as slaves.
Exactly.
Because we as far as mine, we comes with laws, as you mentioned before. We were orderly. We have a principle. We are principled people. Look on us in the Caribbean islands. You can see how we operate in the Caribbean islands. We operate under a lot of principle, under a lot of different guidelines. We are a proud set of people, and so that would have stand out amongst other African nations.
Right.
And they didn't like that. They didn't want that amongst themselves. So the first set of people to say, hey, these are the ones who needs to get out of here and go on the slave trade.
So when we talk about black history or African history, we have to make a difference between, okay, the Israelites, we were in Africa, yes, but we were not the Hamite Africans, okay? We took the name of the we took names of, we knew who we were, but we took the names of being called Africans because of society. It taught us that. But we know that we are not Africans. We are the Jews. Like today, they could say that I have American citizenship. We were in the land of Africa. You understand what I'm saying? So to bridge the gap furthermore, I want to show you exactly how we came from Jerusalem on to Africa. And then from Africa, we came to the Caribbean islands and the Americas. Okay. Lewis, real quick, do you know, what is it called? Scott's Hall in Jamaica? Scott's Hall? You know anything about that? Okay, well, the Maroon Warriors, what happened was they demanded certain monies or pounds from England, from the British, right? And they have yet to come forth with that treaty yet. They have. Okay, all praise to the Most High. So listen now, we're trying to make and bridge that gap between us being in Israel to the west ports of Africa, going on to the Caribbean islands and the Americas. But I hope you all were listening here on the radio airwaves. You so-called Caribbeans are of the tribe of Benjamin, okay? Plain and simple. Read the scripture real quick.
Hebrews 2, verse number 1. Therefore we ought to give more earnest heed to the things which we have heard.
So you've heard a lot right now on the airways. You've heard a lot how we're making the comparison between the children of Israel and you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians right now. You are the Israelites according to the Bible. Specifically, we're talking about the tribe of Benjamin, those Bahamian, those Jamaicans, those so-called Jamaicans, Bahamians, Trinidadians, etc. Okay? You are the Benjamites. Read on. Take the most earnest heed to what you heard. Read on the facts that we've been proven. Read.
Lest at any time we should let them slip.
Don't let these words slip out of your mind. Why? Because we're showing you who you are. You are the people of God. You are the true descendants of the Israelites. And you must take recognition and realize exactly how special you need to treat yourselves in these Caribbean areas and islands and stuff. We got to get out of the mind state of oppression, that oppressive state of mind, and come into the fruition of you need to value each other's lives and stop killing one another, stop stealing from one another, put the drugs down, put the marijuana down, be sober-minded, be clear-thinking, and come back to God and keep His commandments in the faith of Christ as Israel. That is the only way to obtain the kingdom of heaven, and that's what we're here for, to make sure our people receive the kingdom of heaven. We're going to show you. You can reach us at IsraelUnite.org. Okay, specifically, we have a location here in the Orlando area, 5380 Silver Star Road, Orlando, Florida. Okay, you can reach us.
Catch us next week.
Catch us next week, man.
Now they will see the true men of God. We are not black men, we are the Israelites. That's right. Take care of us. Take care of us. And our children too. And our children too. We have abandoned. We have repented. How are you? How are you? People want to know who's the king.
O nation of Israel, it's time to return to the Father. O nation of Israel, it's time to return to the Father.
Now why they trying to make it so hard to serve God? And why when I say that I'm a Jew it sound odd? For years I've been walking around saying that I'm a black man. I ain't saying that no more, it sounds wrong, man.
This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels. Stay up to date with our latest events, music, and classroom lessons. IUIC plans to continue visiting different countries where this gospel has not been preached before. IUIC needs your help in pushing this truth. So join us. Subscribe to our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and podcast, and stay up to date with us. For more information, please visit www.israelunite.org.